Ого, сейчас начнем. Ну что ж, господа, всем привет, всем здравствуйте, Скэтман. Сегодня у нас с вами Бейбеш, Мапош, Пикешкиш. Да. Он же Стэнли Парабл, Ультра Делюкс. Поехали. Песня с ФТЛ отчасти. Но не только. Там в целом композитор Бен Пранти, который композитор ФТЛ. И там пара треков было не из ФТЛ. Чё, кого Джим? О, Джим, привет. Джим. Опять? 12:11. А где, простите, мышка? Погодите-ка. Пока иначе могу кое-что сказать. Спасибо, что правильно выставили время оба раза, что запускали игру. Многие относятся к этому как-то несерьезно. Оставляя часы на 12:00, торопятся дальше. А вы потратили время, чтобы выставить часы, и я это ценю. Это говорит мне о том, что вы играете внимательно, что для вас важны детали. А я даже не знаю, правильно ли вы время выставили. Знаете что, давайте договоримся. Я вам так доверяю, что при следующей запуске игры просто выставьте на замыкание свое любимое время. Выбирайте любое время, даже если оно неправильное, вы заслужили. А теперь можно вернуться к игре.
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Эм,
Stanley worked for a
А зачем мы еще время вбиваем? Оно же нигде в игре не присутствует.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Oh, good. You noticed my sign. Yes, I have something very exciting to show you.
Спасибо.
You see, Stanley, I've been reflecting on the Stanley parable and about how roundly disappointing this ultra deluxe version has turned out to be. The original Stanley parable was a landmark, and any new content for it should live up to that legacy. So forget this ultra deluxe nonsense. I say we take it one step even further. Which is why I'm very proud to announce for the first time ever the Stanley Parable 2.
Ну, это мы все смотрели, поэтому просто идем дальше.
Yes, you see, isn't this far superior to a measly re-release with a few minor additions? Think of all the new territory we'll cover with a fully fledged sequel. An entirely new experience, built from the ground up. Why, there are so many possibilities. It could go in so many different directions. This is what fans have truly been asking for. Now, to be clear, I haven't quite nailed down what exactly the Stanley Parable 2 is going to be, but let's take a look at some of the features I've been developing for it. I figure that if I can loosely organize a handful of interesting concepts, that surely the game will sort of naturally spring up around them. Here we are. Go on, try out some of the new features. Calling it the Stanley Parable 2 is just so much catchier than Ultra Deluxe, don't you think? Ultra Deluxe? What does it even mean?
Бесконечная дыра, она не кончается.
Now that's an artistic statement right there.
Бесконечная дыра.
It screams progress and innovation. And okay, I'll be honest, I haven't yet decided on this one. I think that in the new version, the office could use
Я позже раз выбрал вот этот.
like balloons. But I'm undecided on Get Well Someday and Happy 12th Birthday. Which would you go with? You know, sometimes when you solicit another person's opinion, it makes you realize that you knew which one you actually really wanted all along. Happy 12th Birthday, step-niece it is.
Естественно. Он выбирает не тот вариант, который выбрали мы.
My decision, we're moving on.
Distance, space-time, falling, past, time like infinity, time, death, whole like infinity. Rims, ordinary, depth, infinite. Infinite whole chart, whole, depth, space, more whole, infinity, science, more, fallen. Dictation use only. Science. Вопрос. The holy moly! How deep can we dig? Как глубоко можем копнуть? Holy moly. Фразочка какая есть. Just keeps going. Сильно. Глубоко.
Stanley, here's an idea that I'm truly fond of. It's never been done before in a video game. This is, in fact, a hole that you can fall down forever. That's right. Infinite falling. You can fall until the end of time, if you like. A stunning leap forward for video games as a medium.
Дыра, в которой можно падать бесконечно. Звучит сильно. Такого еще не было.
You see, isn't it wonderful? One of my more ingenious concoctions, if I do say so. Now then, since you've gotten to see the infinite hole, you can press the teleport button to pop back up to the top, and we can continue onward.
Это один из моих кошмаров.
Now, I don't mean to be a bummer, but I do recommend you use the teleport button to go back to the top. Maybe do it on the sooner rather than later spectrum of...
Значит, она не бесконечная. Вообще кайпово, конечно, да.
Stanley, I don't know quite how to say this tactfully, but it's possible that I slightly exaggerated the infinite nature of the hole. Is it a very, very deep hole? To be certain it is. It's an extremely deep hole. I don't want anyone to say that it isn't an astonishing...
Реально мы движемся.
Is it infinite? Well, that sort of depends on your definition of infinity.
О,
From one perspective,
край.
the infinite is merely philosophical in nature. It's more of a... Okay, well, good for you. You found the bottom of the hole. You found me out, Stanley. I'm a liar and a cheat, and you're so clever. Look, I think the issue here is just that you're unusually fascinated by falling. What normal person actually wants to fall infinitely? I figured the hole was as deep as anyone would actually need. Don't you put this on me. Maybe you're the problem. Look, things got a little heated there. I think we both said some things we didn't.
Боже, Смит, привет.
Why don't we just put all this behind us and agree to just call the hole mostly infinite?
Mostly.
If that works for you, then go ahead and press the teleport button to warp up to the top of the hole and we can move on. I'll just be up here when you're ready.
Да, это страшно, Дис. У меня кошмары такие иногда бывают, когда, короче, типа, ну, ты где-нибудь тусишь, а потом ты резко падаешь куда-то. Это у меня такое, но оно обычно недолго. Поликси, привет! Хо-хо! Мистер Поликси, how are you? Играл в VR игру Plank. Nope. No, I didn't. Кстати. Секундочку. Штуки. Во. Да, все. Rich Splunk Experience. Вот там я обосрался. Сейчас погуглим, что это такое. Riches Splunk Experience. А, я видел видосики по этой игре. What do you freeze? Типа ты должен по доске двигаться, боясь упасть. Круто, это прикольно. Это прикольная тема. На доску какие-то раздобыть, правда. Ну и игру в целом.
Great. Now, I'm very excited to show you even more of my ideas for the sequel. Oh, for heaven. You see, I was right. The problem is you. The problem is that you like holes too much.
Too much.
Normal person would have said, yep, that's an infinite hole right there. Goes on forever till the end of time. Don't need to see it all, but not you. Oh, no, 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 no. You have a weird sort of... Oh. Did the holes
Да.
seem even shorter to you this time? I
Сильно.
couldn't help but feel like you spent a little less time in there.
Я
than
думал,
you did
реально
before.
падаю.
I mean, admittedly, I didn't make an infinite hole. I didn't think it was that not infinite. Well, I suppose once again there's nothing to do here. If you decide you've had enough of the hole, you can hit the teleport button and come join me up above. Had enough? I'm positively thrilled. I really do have so much more to show you and to talk about, and I've had enough of the hole for a lifetime. Gosh, how could I have guessed? You're back in the hole. If this starts to become a thing where... Wow. Okay. Yes.
Каждый раз все меньше и
I'm
меньше.
starting to become extremely certain that the hole is not only not infinite, but that it's growing steadily less and less infinite. I suspect that I'm starting to hit the point where it's no longer feasible to call the hole infinitely deep.
Это интересно.
Lacks overall standards for accountability and marking.
Глубина будет метров,
What's
типа.
going on here? Stanley, I have no explanation for the uncertain nature of the hole's length. Here, let's try something. Let's pop back up to the top, and we'll see if it gets any shorter.
А если остаться там сидеть, по-моему, ничего не происходит, Даркмэтр. Что в конце будет? Дыра высотой слегка выше головы? Да.
Well, there it is. The shame of my lie has come to haunt me. How is this still appealing to you? I know you're obsessed with holes, but at this depth, I just can't see this scratching the itch. Oh, Who am I to judge?
Who am I to
You
judge
just
you?
do whatever it is you're here to do and hit the teleport button when you're ready to move on.
О, не работает.
Is the teleport button not working? You sure? Well, I mean, I really don't have an explanation. It was working just a moment ago. Try it again.
Nope.
Still nothing? Well, I suppose there is one thing I can do to fix this. I'm out. Goodbye, Stanley. I couldn't bear to be away from you. Now you'll get more time with it than you could ever have asked for. It's a win for everyone. You get to be with the whole. I get to do literally anything else. Take care, Stanley. I hope you and the whole have a wonderful rest of eternity together.
Yay! I'm with the hole. Все пушки потратил, да. О, да я дыровой колдун. Дыры моя стихия. Praise the holy hole. Круто. Ты рисовал дыра бесконечных как КЗ. В смысле? F, смени перспективу. Нифига. Сильно. Я пока не буду спешить сменить реальность. Типа крипово. Да? Ну, это еще концовка из Держес пока дыра. Не ругайся, Даркметр, что с тобой не так? Пусть в глубину дыры, вряд ли.
Afsluiten nu stuur dat ik speel verhuur nou hè is nou dus niet eerst dat ze me zo opschikken echt wat ze ja zo sterk is me zo meneer veel zo heel erg maar heel lezen ja het wordt sterk en is ik nou eens dat aan het is echt mes
Сильно. О, щеночки! Они снова с нами! Много вариантов, я смотрю, замолчались. Ну, просто фон меняется, конечно. Смени себя. Четыреста 27-й.
Stanley! Stanley! Oh, good, you're awake. Drifting away into dreamland.
Dreamland.
Relax, Stanley, because this whole is so fascinating that I want you to be wide awake for every second of it. You don't want to miss a single moment. So how about if I just pop in from time to time and wake you up, so really truly focused on the whole. From the looks of things, you and I will have many, many years here in this hole. Stay alert, Stanley. I'll be back. Toodlepip.
Это шикарно! Шикарно! Если мне подогнали это год 2000, я подумал, что это шутка на ютубе. В 2000-м на ютубе Dark Matter? Что это за человек из будущего? Мы пойдем здесь многие-многие годы, говорит. Настолько его упоролся за эту дыру. Что вообще забыл по реальности, потом почти бесконечная дыра, да. Ладно, кончилось. Fine, it ended. Меня тянет к дырам, он это знает. Господи, это шикарно. Эй! Слышь? Нечестно. Он знает, чего мы хотим. Не дает нам это. Несите его сюда. Халяв, новое легкое достижение. Работает? Получить свое. Потянить за рычаг, получить новое достижение, профит.
Now here's something special. You remember that broken test achievement that got left in the game on accident? Well, I'm developing a technology to simply give you the achievement. Yes. You see, you'll come to this lever, and when you pull it, the achievement will be given to you. It's as simple as that.
Круто. Тест achievement unachieved. Тест достижения не получено.
Okay, perhaps I should have clarified. This is technology that will exist. Right now, the achievement is still fully broken. I'm not a wizard, Stanley, but I guarantee it will be fixed in the sequel to at last satisfy the hordes of ravenous fans all over the world.
Он же не колдун, в конце концов.
Demanding this feature. Gamers, we hear you, and I promise it will happen.
Сейчас, к слову, об обогревателе. Еще обогреватель, тут что-то холод, капец. freezing to death. So cold. Just lay down for a bit. Я справлюсь и сейчас, рыцарь. Ну, что ж. Момент подгрузки происходит. Пынь.
What else? What other exhibits haven't we seen yet?
It just works. Коллекционные предметы. Investor Showcase. Собери их все. Не знаю, сам, может, денег не хочется давать, без понятия.
No, it's a real video game. In the Stanley Parable 2, you'll run around gathering up these miniature Stanley figurines. And what's truly innovative is that there will be no reward for collecting all of them. I don't want to stifle the intrinsic joy of watching a number go up. You simply collect all of them, and then you move the hell on with your unremarkable life.
Я лечу? Типа все тянутся к ней. Ноль из 6, 1 из 6, там в верхнем правом углу под вебкой.
God, it really is the worst when you collect everything in a video game and then they give you a big fancy reward for it. Absolutely tragic.
Absolutely tragic. Выход. Так, погоди. Мы все посетили? Чемпион мира по настройкам. Украшения для офиса. А, это по воздушной шайке.
An epilogue would be fun, wouldn't it, Stanley? Yes, it will go at the end of the, well, we'll figure that out later.
Эпилог поет после чего? А, во. Чемпион мира по настойкам. Здесь не надо будет нажимать определенные кнопки. Ладно. Ладно, пока не понимаю.
All right, have you seen everything you wanted to? Ready to move on now?
New Mac, новая кружка. Please no screenshots.
So, Stanley, what do you think? Do you like all of the new features? Yes, I know it's not exactly clear yet how exactly these features will come together as one single coherent video game, but I can feel it in my soul. It's going to work. There's definitely a good game in there somewhere. Say, let's do an experiment. I'll arrange these new features together, and we'll see whether or not it coheres into a meaningful gameplay experience. Okay. Are you ready? Here it is. I give you the Stanley Parable 2. I mean, there's potential here, right? It's sort of... Okay, never mind. Hold on, let me do a different arrangement. Okay, yes, this is much better. I feel good about this. Here we go. Version 2. Who am I kidding, Stanley? This isn't a coherent video game at all. It's a lot of gags. And I do very much enjoy creating gags, but they don't add up to anything. I wanted more than anything to create a sequel that would capture all the magic of the first game. I wanted fans to love it. No matter how good these gags are, they won't stand on their own. They would need the structure and the gameplay of the original. Wait, maybe that's it. I can take the original Stanley Parable and simply, well, insert a few of my new features into it. Tastefully, of course.
Так.
With respect. With care for the vision and integrity of the original game. Would it possibly work? I suppose it could. But it would need a really, really tremendous title screen. A title screen that says with bold and uncompromising conviction, "This is the Stanley Parable 2. Let me see if I can whip something up. All right, perfect. Go ahead. Take a look.
Хо-хо-хо! The Stanley Parable 2. Ту-ду-ду-ду-ду-ду-ду-ду-ду-ду-ду-ду. Нифига! Сильно. Круто. Первая или вторая? Заставка? Ну, первая уже появилась, но она тоже классная. Рекурсия. А во вторая вот интересно, необычная. Конец? Дальше не придумал заставку. А, нет, просто задал луп. Окей. У нас уже есть потрясающая заставка, я сейчас приду. Поехали.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a
шайки.
building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office. But Stanley simply couldn't handle the pressure. What if he had to make a decision? What if a crucial outcome fell under his responsibility? He had never been trained for that. No. This couldn't go anywhere except badly. The thing to do now, Stanley thought to himself, is to wait. Nothing will hurt me. Nothing will break me. In here I can be happy forever. I will be happy. Stanley waited. Hours passed, then days. Had years gone by? He no longer had the ability to tell. But the one thing he knew for sure, beyond any doubt, was that if he waited long enough, the answers would come. Eventually, someday, they would arrive. Soon, very soon now, this will end. He will be spoken to. He will be told what to do. Now it's just a little bit closer. Now it's even closer. Here it comes. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Нет, не дают залезть. О!
Stanley picked up the bucket.
Успокаивающее видео. Что там было на мониторе? Input. Ну, ты в Cyberpunk вообще видел? Все то же самое осталось, если ты про это. Несколько раз надо нажать на монитор, тогда концовочка одна откроется. Вот. Input received.
Stanley pressed the bucket upon every little thing in the office. Nothing responded to the bucket's touch, but it did little to discourage Stanley's belief in the magic of the bucket.
Magic of the bucket.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Поехали.
Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers. Oh, Stanley, can you feel it? The broom closet. It wants the bucket. You can feel that, can't you? The aura of jealousy? It's as clear as day. This broom closet believes it deserves the bucket. I can really feel it now. It's a bucket. It belongs in a broom closet. That's what the broom closet is trying to say here. It's supposed to go with the other cleaning supplies.
Cleaning supplies!
Don't give in. Don't hand over the bucket. I know how hard it must be, given the pressure that the broom closet is putting on your shoulders right now, but you have to be strong. This is your bucket. This is your companion and lifelong friend. You can't hand it over. Oh no. We're getting into name-calling now, it seems. Is this how low the broom closet has sunk, that it has to resort to this stream of petty insults simply in order to get you to hand over the bucket? Stanley, I never liked this broom closet for a variety of reasons. I had imagined. And wait, now the broom closet has the gall to imply that you and the bucket are not truly deep and lasting friends? That your relationship is purely superficial and convenient? that your life is so banal and meaningless that you'd feel the same sort of kinship towards any inanimate object which happened to lay in your path in an even partially enticing manner? Well, I'd never. Go on, Stanley. Lay into it. Really tell the broom closet off for its demeaning comments. Expand on the wide variety of experiences you and the bucket have shared together. Go through each of them point by point. Share your journal entries detailing the rich emotional landscape of your feelings for the bucket as they have changed and evolved over the years. Let him have it. Okay, I've got you something which I think will help settle this debate once and for all. Here we go.
Property of Stanley. О,
No more
сильно.
debate, no more discussion. Take a hike, broom closet, with all your meandering philosophical diatribes about the nature of broom closets and their relationship to broom closets in the natural order of things.
О, господи.
I've got a second sticker back here, and I'm going to slap it on as well because I think it's appropriate. You see, I feel that it works because the sticker is also a bucket. That way, if you're ever unsure whether the thing you're holding is a bucket or not, you can look down at this sticker and say to yourself, ah, it's a bucket. There really is a wide variety of applications for this sticker.
Ah, it's a bucket.
Well, I could take the name-calling and the dismissal of your kinship with the bucket, but now the broom closet is just giving us a silent
О,
and
как
to
она
be honest,
может.
I'm sick of the pettiness on display. You can stay here all you like, but I've had it with this impetulant room of cleaning supplies. Easily the most childish such room I've ever been in. I'll see you outside, and we can get on with the story about you and your bucket.
Сейчас, секундочку. А мне ж видота и некуда деть.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Туалет начальника.
You found one of them. One of the miniature Stanley figurines.
Две из
Remember,
6.
no reward for collecting all of these, only the intrinsic pleasure of a job well done. You can't buy that sort of happiness, Stanley. God knows I've tried. So, I implore you to savor each and every moment you come across one of these beautiful figurines.
I've got the feeling. Money's for stealing. But not yours, of course. So... Likely purse. Тут я не понял. Бизнес-стратеджи. Застрелить панду. Я не помню этого лифта. Стэнли.
Stepping in.
Просто комната массажер. Стэнли. То даже я не помню. Не, это было, что можно было выйти за пределы двери обратно. И тогда можно было бы вернуться в 407 комнату. А, о, 408 открывается, точно. You are now leaving. Вы уходите. Отсек специальных капсул, это 760. Вспомню, наверное, уже в лицах, нет? Не помнишь эти этажи? Было что-то такое. Escape Pod Launch Bay. Место запуска спасательных капсул. Я спасу ведро. Все хорошо, ведро. Один из нас должен остаться. Самопожертвование. Собственно, это новая концовка, как понимаете.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
А все, вида нет. Я же его отправил. Черт. Может, зря. Оно где-то будет, по-любому, он нас где-то найдет. Ты, походу, столько завоевывает лица. Я уверен, что мы... Стэнли Парабл всегда был знаменит тем, что нельзя было завоевать ничего. Ты мог перепройти так или иначе. Просто вопрос в том, как это перезапустить. Да, Даркметтер, они меняются. Даркметтер, еще раз, ты ни разу не видел Стэнли Парабл? В этом вся фишка игры, как бы, вся идея. How we can find them? Как же нам их найти? Может, мы и есть коллекционные предметы? Что мы знаем? Маленькие летающие объекты появились по офису. Мы нужно синергизировать наши ресурсы, чтобы убедиться в том, что мы их найдем. Тут слишком много вопросов. How can you tell you've spotted one? What makes them float in the... Почему они летают в воздухе? Кто их сфотографировал? Hard to find. Follow clues provided by employee 416. We can do it. Red room. Красная комната. 416. Доверься инстинкту перфекциониста. Спасибо, удачи. Найдите их, получите награду. Stop killing yourself. Не обманывай себя. Я тоже их хочу. Я хочу домой. Ну, эту стену надо будет почистить. Ложь! Кто ты? 666 лоу. Статус задания на выставке сиквела. Большая комната, куча коробок. Лестница, что-то с лестницей. И синяя, и красная сразу. У камина. Личное, но душное помещение для важной персоны. Мы первую шестую нашли. Ага. Это какая-то игра? There must be a point to this. Должен быть какой-то смысл в этом. Low, looks like 427. Ха-ха-ха, gotta collect them all. 417, large room, lots of boxes. We need more planks. Warehouse floor. To allow collection of shiny float. Создать мост какой-то. Ёк-макарёк. Тут целый план.
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track. There was nothing here. No choice to make, no path to follow, just an empty broom closet. No reason to still be here.
Да-да.
It was baffling that Stanley was still just sitting in the broom closet. He wasn't even doing anything. At least if there was something to interact with, he'd be justified in some way. As it is, he's literally just standing there doing sweet FA. Are you really still in the broom closet? Standing around doing nothing? Why? Please offer me some explanation here. I'm genuinely confused. You do realize there's no choice or anything in here, right? If I'd said Stanley walked past the broom closet, at least you would have had a reason for exploring it to find out. But it didn't even occur to me because literally this closet is of absolutely no significance to the story whatsoever. I never would have thought to mention it.
Кстати, раньше, по-моему, другая была подсобка, но я не уверен.
Maybe to you this is somehow its own branching path. Maybe when you go talk about this with your friends, you'll say, "Oh, did you get the broom closet ending? The broom closet ending was my favorite." I hope your friends find this concerning. Stanley was fat and ugly and really, really stupid. He probably got the job because of a family connection. That's how stupid he is. That or with drug money. Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
Пошли прямые оскорбления.
Well, I've come to a very definite conclusion about what's going on right now. You're dead. You got to this broom closet, explored it a bit, and were just about to leave because there's nothing here, when a physical malady of some sort shut down your central nervous system and you collapsed on the keyboard. Well, in a situation like this, the responsible thing is to alert someone nearby so as to ensure that your body is taken care of before it begins to decompose. Hello? Anyone who happens to be nearby? The person at this computer is dead. They have fallen prey to any number of your countless human physiological vulnerabilities. It's indicative of the long-term sustainability of your species. Please remove their corpse from the area and instruct another human to take their place, making sure they understand basic first-person video game mechanics and filling them in on the history of narrative tropes in video gaming, so that the irony and insightful commentary of this game is not lost on them. All right, when you've done that, just step out into the hallway.
Чем даже интересно, будут ли те видео вообще. Я уверен абсолютно, Линса, что да.
Ah, second player. It's good to have you on board. I guarantee you can't do any worse than the person who came before you.
А, second player.
You too? Unbelievable. I'm at the mercy of an entire species of invalids. Perhaps there's a monkey nearby you can hand the controls to. A fish? Fungus? Look, you can hammer out the details. I'm not particularly picky. I'll just be waiting for when you're ready to pick up the story again.
А, second player. Nice to meet you. Как я люблю это.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Another miniature Stanley figurine. This, you know, there really must be a snappier name for these things. What about mini-stands? Stanley figs? Or what about Stanlerines? Yes,
Stanleyette.
I like that. Another Stanlerine under your belt. But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss. Admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished. His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all. None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it.
Oh, yes.
I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back,
Спать захотелось.
the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
Nope.
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
Spooky.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy, this much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day, the very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Да? Жиза? Пуба-пуба-бабем.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Figurine Finders Committee meeting today. Ooh. Replacement bucket.
And try not to lose this one too, you dolt.
О чем ты и спрашивал, Эльсах? Try not to lose this one, you dolt.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Figurine. Ooh.
Stanley, we must move on from this broom closet, simply because I have no remaining stickers. If I did, you can guarantee we'd be in here for hours. But alas, no stickers. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy.
Только не говорите мне, что ведро не будет
Something
упомянуто.
occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. He looked down at the bucket in his arms. Am I crazy? He asked the bucket. The bucket returned his gaze, but said nothing at all. That's strange, Stanley thought. Usually the bucket is a source of guidance and wisdom for me in difficult times such as these. He held the bucket close, yet felt none of its familiar reassurance and comfort. And that's when Stanley realized, this isn't my bucket. It's just a normal, everyday bucket. Someone else's bucket, perhaps. How did I end up with someone else's bucket? This is all terribly...
наклейка.
No good would come from this. Who knows what sorts of bizarre hallucinations Stanley might experience
Нет!
without the psychologically grounding presence of his bucket. And indeed, now he noticed the rooms were repeating, which was, of course, very odd. And now he felt himself floating off the ground. Oh, gracious, he exclaimed. Without my bucket, I've gone truly mad. Where is it? I must find it. Far off in the distance now, he heard it, calling to him. Stanley! Stanley, it's me! The bucket! Truly be. He rushed forward from room to room, passing by one bucket after the next. None of them were his. None of them were his special bucket.
Нет! Come to me, я иду!
He had to find the bucket. He had to return to his old friend. It was the only way to truly restore his sanity. And then suddenly, he froze dead in his tracks. He knew where the voice of the bucket had been coming from.
В руке.
The real bucket was inside of him all along. It was incredibly painful. Stanley doubled over in agony and blacked out.
This is a story.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, picked up her bucket of confidence, and went to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the man who had stumbled through town, talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. Right away, she knew what the problem was. This man had no bucket. Of course, he'd gone mad, ranting and describing all of his actions and how everything is predetermined and free will is an illusion and it's all just a video game. It could all have been prevented if only he'd taken his bucket with him. Perhaps he didn't even realize he'd forgotten his bucket at home in the first place. How cruel the world can be, Mariella thought, and she hugged her own bucket even tighter. But of course, she had no time for this. There were a myriad...
Продолжаем.
of confusing problems she would soon have to confront at work, for which her bucket would provide absolute guidance and total clarity on everything. Becky said to herself, my life kicks ass, and she backflipped all the way to work.
Поехали. Так. Пластиковая. Пластиковая.
Stanley had never seen the office this brightly lit. Was it a sign of something? He hoped it was. He hoped very much that it was.
Brightly lit.
Stanley lifted the bucket into his arms, and a wave of comfort rushed over him.
Wave of comfort.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Погоди, 417-е. Прослакал. Ну ладно.
Stanley, we must move on from this broom closet, simply because I have no remaining stickers. If I did, you can guarantee we'd be in here for hours.
Повтор.
But alas, coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light
Guiding light.
clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him always. The bucket would, and he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk. Nor in his bliss of simply being near the bucket did he have any notion that the PIN number for the keypad was 2845. Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845.
Думаю, сказать, что менее жбобой.
But it turns out that the panel's emergency override kicked in, and the door just opened all by itself, and Stanley got the hell along with the story. Well, whoop-de-doo.
Well, whoop-de-doo.
Okay, I'm going back to the name of these little Stanley figurines, and now I'm torn between Stanlerines and Figlies. What do you think, Stanley? What name better encapsulates the intrinsic sense of happiness that you get from seeing a small number in the corner of your screen go up by one? Let me sit.
4 уже из
I'm
6.
sure it will come to me. The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine. Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility.
Сходи в escape. Ну, давай.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley and the bucket would both meet a violent death. The door behind them was not shut. Stanley and the bucket still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley and the bucket were knowingly walking forward into a very painful death for each of them.
О, нет.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley and the bucket inched closer to their demise, Stanley reflected on how meaningless the bucket's warmth and comfort had turned out to be. To be sure, it puts the mind and the soul at ease to embrace the bucket, but what use is a sense of ease when you're about to be crushed to death? This is what Stanley thought to himself, and he sort of kicked himself for wasting so much time carrying a bucket everywhere. Farewell, Stanley.
Видео.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the
Священно.
narrator, as Stanley and the bucket were led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, the bucket's life came to an end, as it was crushed violently to death.
Or not.
It was a shame, the death of such a magnificent bucket. It's true that all buckets are radiant in their own way, but this one stood above the rest. It was a glorious bucket to behold.
Glorious bucket. Ведро. Приглашает вас на большую выставку. Вы подошли к порогу настоящего знания. Как и само ведро, человеческий разум зачастую всего лишь пустой сосуд. Но с помощью таких средств, как эта выставка, разум наполняется смыслом и познанием. Знание о ведре и его истории — единственная непреложная истина в переменчивом мире. Возьмете ли вы с собой во внешний мир то, что узнаете здесь? Откроете ли разум тому, что может показаться сложным или даже невыносимым? Поменяете ли свою жизнь и жизнь своих близких после этой выставки? Или отвернетесь и будете жить, как прежде, в невежестве и темноте? Ведра у меня нету, я куда-то дел. Сейчас пойду. Так, продолжаем. Сложный выбор: мастерство ведра или выверенность мистера Крейсла.
Can you see how arrogant it was for Stanley to take a bucket like this and to claim it for his own? Can you see the hubris that blinded him? Can you see that the bucket is far more noble than Stanley will ever be in his short life?
«25 ведер. Фото 25 ведер сразу. Большего количества не удавалось снять никому. Фотограф на несколько недель буквально потерял дар речи. Настолько велика была его радость от снимка с таким количеством ведер. Чего, их явно гораздо больше, чем 25. Может, 250? Ведро с двумя ручками. О, типа отсылка на Леонардо да Винчи. Ведро представлено с двумя ручками сразу. В реальной жизни такой дизайн ни разу не использовался. Его признали слишком опасным и безрассудно новаторским. Каждый год в нескольких странах казнят тех, кто пытается его реализовать. Больше 25 ведер. Адское ведро. Репродукция адского ведра, которое так ценилось в средние века, что целые народы шли за него на войну. Люди гибли сотнями тысяч, но один факт остался непреложным. Ни у кого нет власти над ведром. О, деревянное. Так, блин, чаек закончился. Адское ведро. Я смотрю, разрабу понравилась идея музеи пилить. Пей чай из ведра. Так. Stress bucket and analogy. Coping strategies holes. Size and strength of the bucket, worry, negative forecast, negative thinking, lack of reassurance. Water in the bucket. Rest and relaxation. Doing something you enjoy. Rest and relaxation. Ведро, антистресс. Комментарии отсутствуют. Так ли это? Пещерный рисунок. Мы знаем, что ведра появились раньше людей, но не знаем, насколько раньше. Рисунок изображает древнего человека, который научился пользоваться ведром. По всей вероятности, веду к этому времени уже несколько тысяч лет. Обратите внимание, как ведро позволяет себя использовать, признав человечество достойным этого.
No man can own a bucket, and certainly not a bucket as dazzling to behold as this one. It is man who should kneel before the bucket.
Висящее ведро. Экспант символизирует неизбежную связь ведра и человечества. Мы можем думать, что отлично понимаем ведро, но всегда найдется что-то, чего мы еще не осознали, и это всегда к лучшему. Бесконечная дыра?
But there is something we can do. Something we can do together, you and I, that will right this terrible wrong. Let Stanley die. Let him be crushed by the machine. Don't reset the game. Don't give him another opportunity to run off with another beautiful bucket. We can save the world's buckets from their treatment as tools and implements if only we let Stanley die together. The bucket shall take its place as ruler, as leader, as commander of a new world, a new vision.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. The confusion and the chaos all seemed to melt away as Stanley embraced the bucket. Stanley clung the bucket to his cheek. Could his co-workers really all be gone? Yes, whispered the bucket into Stanley's ear. We've done it. We've escaped from that dull office and that pesky narrator. At last, out here in the white void, we are alone. Now, and for the first time, I can reveal to you my true self. The bucket began to tell Stanley of its life and its history, of the countless wars it witnessed,
Бесчисленных
the
войнах.
land and lives of untold numbers of innocent humans, and the bucket's own complicity therein, of sadness and regret, and the many years it spent dwelling on the actions it might have taken to curb the madness and the decay, if only it had been stronger, of hope and redemption, and its crusade to uplift the stock of life for the common man, to manifest justice where none existed, and the bittersweet reality of time, to see one's dreams and wishes met halfway, meted out in parcels like charity, and abandoned as soon as the warm glow of inspiration begins to dim. The opportunities to do so much more. There was so much it could have done, perhaps, the bucket wondered to itself. Perhaps, if it had seen its own darkness with a clearer perception. This was way too much for Stanley. What are you talking about? He screamed. You're a bucket! To this, the bucket furrowed its brow. No, said the bucket.
Now,
Not since the evil wizard Gambarata
Gambarata.
stabbed me in his machinations as payback for the sacred amulet I stole from his treasured vaults. I was young back then and could not conceive the ramifications of... Stanley screamed even louder this time. This is stupid! You are a bucket! This is so stupid! Why are we even doing this? As Stanley screamed and screamed and screamed, the bucket revealed its true form, transforming into a mighty beast of untold power, its fangs glistening like... My God, Stanley, you did it. You saved us from the bucket. Thank God you already had all 12 emblems of sages and knew the incantations to summon their true power. Otherwise, we would have easily been overwhelmed by the bucket's power. I'm speechless. You've demonstrated such bravery here today. Come, let's restart the game, and we'll agree to never again go trifling with this bucket, nor the dark magic cast away inside of it.
Сильно. Это хитран.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Warmth spread through Stanley's arms. With the bucket in his arms again, he was home.
Тащи свое ведро с Эйседом. Никто не может владеть ведром. Yes.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Мы лишь временно здесь, как спутники ведер.
Stanley, we must move on from this broom closet, simply because I have no... Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire, if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him, always. The bucket would, and he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection
Я забыл,
shared with
какой
the
код.
bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk. Nor in his bliss of simply being near the bucket did he have any notion that the
Ещё видео
pin number
тёплое.
for the keypad
Почему нет?
was 2845. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation. Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility. The lights rose.
Это необычные
on an
видохи там.
enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
Залезть на стул? На нем можно залезть? А, да, точно.
But just as Stanley was about to proceed further into the mind control facility, he tripped and fell over the railing and into the dark void below. Thankfully, he fell directly onto the bucket, which safely cushioned his fall. Now, what to do next? Stanley wondered. Stanley and the bucket could find no way out of this enormous pit, and so eventually they decided that the best thing to do would be to simply get comfortable down here. So they set up a little couch and relaxed. It really wasn't so bad down here, a bit cold perhaps. After some time had gone by, they installed a few shelves as well, and a sort of kitchenette that was useful for when the bucket was craving paninis.
Panini.
But it wasn't until the rugs and the standing lamps came in that it really started to feel like a home. In fact, after some time, Stanley realized that it had been ages since he had even thought of the mind control facility at all. He'd never gotten to fully explore what was up there, never been able to unearth the many mysteries of the mind control facility. This lack of closure began to eat at him. Soon he was dwelling on his regrets, and the state of their home slowly decayed as Stanley became withdrawn and neglected the cleaning. It unsettled the bucket deeply. Stanley wasn't usually like this. The bucket tried to reach out to him again and again, but to no avail. All Stanley could think about, all he could talk about, was going back, doing it over,
А знаешь, что такое панини хитаран?
staying on the path.
Сейчас бы панини поесть.
It was a mistake, it was a mistake. I need to do what the narrator says. I need to see the true ending. This made no sense at all to the bucket, which was simply trying to live its life down here as comfortably as possible. But Stanley was inconsolable. This isn't an ending. This is just a hole in the ground. The bucket sighed. True, it wasn't an ending. But it's where we happen to be. And maybe, possibly, if we accept the reality of things, maybe this will become an ending eventually. It's what the bucket was counting on. The two of them waited for a very long time.
Хорошо, давай без еда.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left. Oh no, no, not again. I won't be part of this. I'm not going to encourage you. I'm not going to say anything at all. I'm just going to be patient and wait for you to finish whatever it is you enjoy doing so much in this room. Please take your time.
Oh, no, 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 no.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music. Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
Типа бутеров. Ну... Типа сэндвич. Дис. Является ли тазик удобно широким? Если есть ручка, то да, на лицах. Без ручки нет.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Aha! You've made it to the bottom of the Mind Control Facility. Welcome! You see, back when the Stanley Parable first launched in 2013, getting to the bottom of the Mind Control Facility was a bug that we simply didn't catch during development. And you all sent us lots of photos of it on Twitter and acted very superior about it. And you're all very, very clever. Good for you. Anyway, when it came time to update the game, we knew that we had to do something about this little goof of ours. So here you go. New content. You can call it the bottom of the mind control room ending, if that enhances your perception of the value of these updates. Isn't that what you crave? New content? Always more content, more content, more. And I'm here to give it to you. I'm here to make it seem like we really covered every nook and cranny of the game, with secrets and Easter eggs. How about this? We wrote a new piece of music just for this section.
Да, хитран, конечно.
Anywhere else in the game, it's a secret that's just for you. That's how special you are. We call this track, Good Job You've Made It to the Bottom of the Mind Control Facility. Well done.
Good job, you did it. Good job.
3, 2, 1.
Good job, you made it to the bottom of the mind control facility. Jumped on the catwalk. You should have been careful. You should have been careful. It used to be a bug, but now it's an ending. Now it's an ending. I believe in you. I believe in your ability to cross this barrier and chase your dreams. The railings don't mean anything. Good job, you did it. Good job, you did it. Good job, you did it. Good job.
Да потому что можно так перевести хитран. У бутерброда нет хлеба сверху, хитран. Хлеб только с одной стороны. А еще сэндвич пишется через D, а не через G. Good job you did it. Good job you did it.
Already this was uncomfortable, and Stanley decided that as soon as he found a new space he felt safe in, that he would never leave it again in his life. Stanley picked up the bucket and smiled. He'd never be alone again, not truly alone, not with the bucket around.
Бургером и сэндвичем. У бургера, ну, во-первых, у бургера котлета, а не какое-нибудь наполнение в духе там ветчина и так далее. В бургере обязательно котлета. Если у вас бургер без котлет, это не бургер, это херня какая-то. Ну и обычно у бургеров булочка другая. И бутер с котлетой. Это уже не совсем бутер.
Stanley, we must move on.
Да, у меня постоянно проблемы с глухими звуками,
Simply because
согласны.
I have no remaining Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the
Good job, did it. Good job, you did it. Котлета на хлеб, а оно бутер. Да, но если фигачишь сверху еще один кусок хлеба, это уже бургер.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical.
То есть тут без разницы, быстро или медленно мы походим. Ведро знало ответ. Логично. Сэндвич, ну не кажется, сэндвич-бургер. Нет, еще раз. В сэндвиче котлетов вообще нет. Если есть котлет, это бургер. Либо хлеб зажат между двумя котлетами. Это интересный вопрос. Это реверс сэндвич или реверс бургер, скорее.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
$360 no scope.
The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine. Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed.
Не успел выйти.
He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control. Never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world.
Что делаешь? Пытаюсь выйти.
He could trust no one except for the bucket. But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system.
High five to the bucket.
When at last they came to the source of the room's power, Stanley and the bucket knew it was their obligation to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for. Stanley and the bucket waited in blackness. Was it over? Yes!
Пека.
They'd done it. Stanley and the bucket had defeated their greatest and darkest enemy, freed themselves from the tyrannical grip of the evil mind control machine. Freedom was now mere moments away. Excitedly, the two of them began to discuss the kind of life they wanted to live once they stepped through this massive door. The bucket wanted to learn to roller skate. Stanley wanted to sneeze in every country on earth.
Чихнуть, кажется,
Begin
лиц.
watching a movie, any movie, but then stop it halfway through and begin watching it in reverse from the end. True, it was a simple life they envisioned, but it was one they'd lived together, with one another to lean on, to trust, to support, and... What? Wait. What was happening? Why had the door stopped? Was Stanley and the bucket not about to be freed? An unbearable silence filled the room, lingering in uncertainty, until finally the truth hit Stanley square in the face. This building did not want the bucket to leave. Even the facility itself recognized the incredible calming presence of the bucket, needed the soothing warmth of the bucket, would go to any lengths not to part with the bucket.
No.
Stanley can't leave this place. Not while he has such a precious bucket in his arms. Not while this building has anything to say about it. Stanley realized he would never again leave this very room. But at least he has the bucket. To be trapped eternally in darkness isn't really so bad, Stanley thought to himself. As long as I have my bucket with me, right? I'll be okay, won't I? Stanley gulped. Very soon now, he was about to find out. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. The good old bucket. Just Stanley and the bucket. Off on another thrilling adventure together.
Темно как-то стало.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. Coming to a staircase,
Но с пощадой.
Stanley and the bucket walked
Ну,
upstairs
меняется
to
путь
his
хитрым.
office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Ведро направляет меня.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead
Посмотри
through the
назад.
large door that read Mind Control Facility. Wait, Stanley said to the bucket. Can we go back up? When I was pressing those keypad buttons, there was something very intriguing about the number 3. I want to go back so I can try pressing the number 3 again. The bucket said nothing.
А там было что-то с цифрой 3?
Here we are, said Stanley. Now I'm going to try out that number 3 button. He took the bucket over to the keypad and began absolutely slamming on the number 3 over and over and over. After taking some time to show the bucket around the boss's office, Stanley at last went to the keypad where he began eagerly pressing the number 3 again and again. "Wow," he said, "the number 3 is such a special button. I'm having the time of my life." Stanley looked expectantly at the bucket, but the bucket remained silent. This was a shock to Stanley, who had always felt such a connection with the bucket. How was this not as exciting to the bucket as it was to him? Once Stanley had had enough of the number 3, he got back in the elevator.
Какое странное путешествие.
Perhaps the bucket had missed something. Perhaps it had not seen how much joy Stanley got from slamming the number 3 repeatedly.
Надо вернуться.
No, said Stanley to the bucket. "You can't go on yet. Not till you understand how much the number 3 means to me. You and I have been through so much together, and I just want you to see what I see. Feel the happiness I feel." He smiled at the bucket, and the bucket said nothing.
Окей.
"Here we go," said Stanley. "This time I'll really show you." He ran to the number 3 and began to wail on it like a musician on a beloved instrument, weaving a concerto of truth and passion. He wielded the number 3 like a fine artist would wield a paintbrush. He told stories through the number 3, stories of his dreams and hopes and fears. And the whole time, he looked to his bucket for a reaction of some kind. Anything to let him know that the bucket appreciated what he was doing. The bucket conveyed absolutely nothing at all, only silence. Crushed by a wave of dejection, Stanley returned to the elevator. Stanley and the bucket were so close. They'd always been there for one another. Why suddenly could the bucket not connect with this passion of Stanley's? The question caused Stanley to ruminate the whole way down the elevator. He knew that there must be a way to get through to the bucket, to communicate fully with his dear friend. Surely there was a solution, mustn't there be?
Медленнее едем, чем обычно, кстати. Уже без комментариев.
Said Stanley.
I know what to do.
I know how to fully express this feeling in my heart. He decided right then and there
Раньше-то была эта
to hold
дверь.
a press conference where he would speak to the public on all matters relating to pressing the number 3 over and over. He would elaborate fully on what the number 3 meant to him and why he felt so alive when pressing it. Then the bucket would be able to see his joy through the eyes of others. It would get to see the world react to this discovery of Stanley's. And it would be through the public eye that the bucket would finally understand Stanley's work.
Ooh.
For months, he advertised and marketed his press conference, building excitement around it, developing and rehearsing it, until it couldn't be refined a single measure further. When the big day arrived, Stanley was as prepared as he'd ever been for anything in his life.
How we did it, the pyramids. World's healthiest human being, all tricks revealed. Life, the guy who went to Mars. Так, я сейчас, секундочку, ребят. Нос, нос. Так. Evening with World Peace Baby. Вечер с ребенком мира. Stanley, tonight, live on stage. The man, the process, the myth, the legend, the parable. Stanley from the Stanley parable. Tonight, live on stage. Там какой-то шар или что это такое, непонятно. Sentient machine. Storyteller. Stanley reviews all in his new book. Alexander, doing great conversation with Alexander the Great. Типа текст, который надо выучить.
This was it. One last chance to win the bucket over. One opportunity to share a true connection with a loved one.
Congratulations, Stanley. Remember where you came from. Your coworkers. Помнят, типа, откуда ты. Твои коллеги. 3-3-3 снова. Я играл в демо-версию. Adventure awaits. The Freedom Ending. Mind Control Facility. Narrator Airlines. Wish you were here. Aloha from the Freedom Ending. Да. 427 номер нашего кабинета, да. Чувак, который придумал пиццу. Ужасные бои. Они следят за нами.
There was no one here. Nobody had come to the press conference to hear Stanley speak, to listen to him talk about what it really means to press the number 3 on a keypad over and over. He was unloved, uninteresting, he was a failure, and in that moment Stanley knew that the bucket would never again take him seriously. There would be no connection, no deeper understanding. The bucket merely sat there in his arms, indifferent. And so it began that slowly, over many years, the two of them grew more and more distant. They spoke less and less, neither wishing to state the obvious, that any sense of real respect between them had eroded since that day at the press conference. There would be no more games, no more long conversations about passion and pursuit, only a silence that consumed the space between friends. And Stanley, having for once in his life discovered the warmth and comfort of true companionship, was cast back into the unremarkable normalcy of loneliness. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Привет, лазер.
Where are we going today? The bucket asked. Stanley just smiled. Anywhere they went together would be perfectly fine with him. Stanley clutched the
Чё у
bucket
тебя
tightly
ведёрко?
to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Читай комментарии, лазер.
Stanley, we must move on from this broom closet, simply because I have no... Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire, if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Прикольно. То есть это действительно было. А мне показалось, что это с предыдущей осталось, типа багуля. Как будто чуточку нагрелась. Окей, окей. Не дают выйти. Кажется, сказал с чатиком. Хороший вопрос. Лазер, почему ты игнорируешь Диса?
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves. The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine. Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do?
Не,
What
Лазер.
kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control. Never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket. But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system. When at last they came to the source of the room's power, Stanley and the bucket knew it was their obligation to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for. But at the last second, the bucket jumped in and pressed the button to turn on the controls. Stanley gasped in horror. Had this been the bucket's plan all along? To take over the machine and claim the power for itself? How could the bucket have betrayed him like this?
Видок, так.
Stanley was prepared to throw the bucket away in disgust when suddenly an image appeared upon the enormous screen. Birds. Silly, silly birds. The
Silly
control
birds.
buttons became active again. Stanley flipped through one video of silly birds after another, and then it dawned on him. This wasn't a mind control facility at all. It was a facility for monitoring and surveilling silly birds all over the world.
Потому что его уже
Mind
мать контролят.
controls were only a facade to disguise its true intentions. Had the bucket known this all along? Stanley marveled at the metal genius in his hands, the one who had pointed him towards this incredible discovery. Stanley and the bucket never found freedom because they spent the rest of their lives here in this place, flipping through live streams of the silliest birds imaginable. Of all the possible paths his life could have taken, this one was surely the best. And Stanley was happy.
Ну, неплохо, неплохо.
How long was I sitting there? Stanley wondered to himself. Minutes? Days? Centuries? Did something crucial happen while my senses were turned? He made a note to be more careful with time from now on. A good bucket, a strong bucket, a humble bucket. a
Humble
committed
bucket.
A bucket of culture and distinction. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room? Yes, Stanley thought to himself. Yes, perhaps it truly was. How insightful the bucket turned out to be.
Ведро чудеса творит.
Never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room. And so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door. Oh, good Stanley. I'm glad you found your way here. I knew you'd find this place eventually.
О, я уже и забыл.
Your friends and I are concerned for you, Stanley. We've come together here because we care about you very much. It's this bucket you're carrying around everywhere. The bucket isn't even from the original Stanley parable. It's just sequel content. We're the ones that matter, Stanley. Classic characters from the first game, like the Adventure Line and the Broom Closet. Because that's what fans want from a sequel. They want more of their favorite jokes, not this bucket that they've never seen before. Yes, I know I'm the one who gave you the bucket, but you're spending too much time with it. Don't you want another story involving the Adventure Line? We could make the Adventure Line go somewhere new. Yes, yes, that's what the fans want. Let's do it.
Что ж, с игрой не убедил.
knows where it'll go off to next? Oh, and it played some silly music as well.
Engine import. Из оригинала музыка. Босси Смит, привет.
Now this is what the Stanley Parable is all about. Don't you remember all those great jokes from the original dialogue?
Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
Yes, it's as classic now as it was back then. Let's do it for the fans, Stanley. Let's give them more content exactly like this. But if we want to do that, you're going to have to give something up.
Та-да-дам, та-да-та-дам. Там-та-да-дам, та-да-та-дам.
Don't you get it, Stanley? We need to get rid of the bucket. That's why I'm very proud to introduce a brand new character. This is the bucket.
Пока еще не все, Босси Смит.
I think
Ужас
it'll make a
какой.
wonderful new addition to the rich lore of the Stanley Parable. True, it also was not in the original game, but it's such a well-fleshed-out character with so much personality that to me it already feels as though it's been part of the cast all along. Don't you agree? Can you guess what the Bucket Destroyer does? Surely you don't need me to spell it out for you.
Это же Бакет
Go ahead,
Дестройер.
Stanley. Say goodbye to the bucket, and then pop it into the machine when you're ready.
В старом пока Босси Смит в основном.
Now listen to me. It's crucial that you give it the bucket. I don't know what the Bucket Destroyer will do if it can't destroy your bucket. Destroying buckets is all it knows. That is its singular personality trait.
Интересная мысль,
Well, I
Даркмайдер.
can hear you saying, how does a character with only one personality trait deserve to join the pantheon of beloved Stanley Parable characters? Well, you see, if you were to really explore the Bucket Destroyer, you would see that its desire to crush buckets is so densely loaded with complexity and nuance that it's really like 10 personality traits. What other object in this game can you even say that about? The broom closet? Certainly not. I wonder what sort of Bucket Destroyer merchandise the fans will be clamoring for after this. Okay, the Bucket Destroyer is getting very upset now. You'll have to hurry and feed it. We can't get back to the classic Stanley Parable characters like the Adventure Line or the Bucket Destroyer until you crush that damn bucket. Quickly now, the fans are waiting. Do it, the fans, Stanley. Give the fans what they want. Hurry and...
Отсылка к Порталу. Отчасти, кстати.
Bucket Destroyer, my prized creation. You had so much potential. We were going to do such marvelous things with you, tell such spell-binding stories about you. All of it squandered now. Goodbye, new friend. For the moment in time that you were here, you were magnificent.
Magnificent. Уничтожитель ведер. Такой сложный персонаж. Но так и не понят никем. Что ж.
Just a step through this door, Stanley thought to himself. That's all I need. If I can make it through this door, I can make it through them all. Ah, the embrace of an old friend. A weathered companionship that stands the test of time. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back, and so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door. You see, your friends and I are concerned for you, Stanley. We've come together here because we care about you very much. It's this bucket you're carrying around everywhere. The bucket isn't even from the original Stanley Parable. It's just sequel content. We're the ones that matter, Stanley. Classic characters from the first game, like the Adventure Line and the Broom Closet. Because that's what fans want from a sequel. They want more of their favorite jokes, not this bucket that they've never seen before.
Интервенция, да-да.
I know I'm the one who gave you the bucket, but you're spending too much time with it. Don't you want another story involving the Adventure Line? We could make the Adventure Line go somewhere new. Yes, that's... Whee! Look at that wacky line. Who knows where it'll go off to next? Oh, and it played some silly music as well. Now this is what the Stanley Parable is all about. Don't you remember all those great jokes from the original dialogue?
Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
Yes, it's as classic now as it was back then. Let's do it for the fans, Stanley. Let's give them more content exactly like this. But if we want to do that, you're going to have to give something. Don't you get it, Stanley? We need to get rid of the bucket. That's why I'm very proud to introduce a brand new character. This is the Bucket Destroyer. I think it'll make a wonderful new addition to the rich lore of the Stanley Parable. True, it also was not in the original game, but it's such a well-fleshed-out character with so much personality that to me, it already feels as though it's been part of the cast all along. Don't you agree? Can you guess what the Bucket Destroyer does? Surely you don't need me to spell it out for you. Go ahead now, Stanley. Say goodbye.
Нет, нельзя.
And then pop it into the machine when you're ready. Now listen to me. It's crucial that you give it the bucket. I don't know what the Bucket Destroyer
Не
will do
дает.
if it can't destroy your bucket. Destroying buckets is all it knows.
Ну вот и
It's singular
выбора нет,
personality trait.
на самом деле.
I can hear you saying, how does a character with only one personality trait deserve to join the pantheon of beloved Stanley Parable characters? Well, you see, if you were to really explore the Bucket Destroyer, you would see that its desire to crush buckets is so densely loaded with complexity and nuance that it's really like 10 personality traits. What other object in this game can you even say that about? The Broom Closet? Certainly not. I wonder what sort of Bucket Destroyer merchandise the fans will be clamoring for after this. Okay, the Bucket Destroyer is getting very upset now. You'll have to hurry and feed it. We can't get back to the classic Stanley Parable characters like the Adventure Line or the Bucket Destroyer until you crush that damn bucket. Quickly now, the fans are waiting. Do it, the fans, Stanley. Give the fans what they want. Hurry and...
Увы. Собственно, да. Укоротим.
Already this was uncomfortable, and Stanley decided that as soon as he found a new space he felt safe in, that he would never leave it again in his life. The bucket made Stanley want to be a better man and a better co-worker.
Нельзя.
In time,
Как надо.
perhaps, he would become both of those things. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his... This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room. No, said the bucket. Don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo
Не
lift. Yes,
лгите.
go there. Go to the cargo lift.
Там этот самый работает. О. 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 А ну не подсказывай, Ахмедах.
You're getting closer close now, Stanley.
5 из 6.
You've nearly gotten all of the Figler anlarines. Very soon, you'll collect the last one. And then the first number will equal the second number, and that will be it. We'll be different people by then. Different in the sense that we used to have none of them. And now we have them all. You can't go back to when you had no Figler anlarines. None of us can.
Окей.
But Stanley feared that any path he walked might lead to the separation of himself and the bucket, his dearest friend. So he threw himself to his death, that they might die in one another's arms. How deeply touching.
How deeply touching.
Wait, Stanley thought to himself. Am I sure that the orders stopped coming in? How is that possible? They never stopped. Surely I was mistaken.
Nope.
Not everyone is so lucky to have a bucket, but Stanley is a very lucky fellow. Very lucky indeed.
Indeed.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift. Yeah, good,
Said the bucket.
now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
Ну нет, я сейчас не подчинился команде вида. Иначе видео стал бы вторым рассказчиком. Опасность повсюду, опасность.
No, stop. Look there on the wall. You see, there's a sign right there. It says, no buckets past this point. Stanley, how could you think it was okay to bring the bucket here?
Да, действительно.
What if the problem is that you actually don't know what is a bucket?
Интересно, а была ли эта надпись раньше?
I suppose that would explain a lot about your behavior up to this point. Which, if that's true, well, my goodness, I think we have to do something about it. This misunderstanding could have dire consequences on the entire rest of the game if not addressed quickly and properly. So much of the impact of the story is dependent on your understanding of what is and isn't a bucket. Please, step in here for a moment.
Нас будут обучать виду. Ведроведению. Is this a
Now
bucket?
then, I'm going to run you through some test scenarios, and you'll tell me whether or not the thing I'm showing you is a bucket. Simple enough, right? This should tell us everything you ever need to know about what is or is not a bucket. Okay, let's begin. Item 1. Is this a bucket?
Take your time. Да? Нет.
Correct. It is a hologram of a bucket, not an actual bucket. Item 2. Is this a bucket?
Да.
Incorrect. It is a 3D printed recreation of a bucket, not an actual bucket.
Ну вот.
Item 3. Is this a bucket? Correct. This is a bucket. Item 4. Is this a bucket?
Нет.
Correct. This is a tractor and not a bucket. To be honest, I just sort of put this one in here as a gimme, but I was starting to get concerned that even this might be too much for you. Thank you for not making me look like an idiot. Okay, next one.
Okay, next one.
Is this a bucket?
Да.
Correct. This is a bucket.
No comment.
Item 6. Is this a bucket?
Нет.
Trick question. Both. Gotcha. Item... Wait, hold on. I can't find the next one. Let me see. Should be around here somewhere.
Да.
Okay, you and I both know there isn't anything here. And I don't appreciate the implication that nothing is a bucket. And we both clearly know that a bucket is something. And therefore nothing could possibly be something. Unless, in your twisted mind, have you somehow convinced yourself that a bucket is nothing? Answer me straight, Stanley. Do you believe that nothing is a bucket?
Да.
You know what? I'm too confused. With this. I've lost all sense of perspective. What is a bucket? What isn't a bucket? Mere moments ago I could answer these questions with confidence. And yet now I'm somewhat adrift. Do any of us know what a bucket is? Am I a bucket? Stanley, I can't keep doing this. I'm losing myself, and myself was all I ever had to begin with. I'm afraid the bucket is threatening to tear our relationship apart. I can't have that. I'm sorry. But I'm going to erase all buckets from the game entirely. Okay, here we go.
Нельзя так
Is
жестоко.
everything gone?
Все,
Why did
это
everything
ведро.
disappear? Wait, was everything a bucket?
Да.
Every single thing in the game was a bucket. Oh my god.
Нет, ведро было всем.
How could... Except me. I'm not a bucket.
А, он не ведро.
Stanley, you're still
Я
here.
тоже не ведро.
Not a bucket either. Oh, this is wonderful news. We're not buckets. Yes, I actually feel much more at ease right now. It's delightful to get some but it doesn't change the fact that we haven't got a game. So, tell you what, I'll reset everything and we'll put back all of the buckets, okay? And we'll know that it's all a bucket. But if you run into anyone else, maybe don't mention that. Who knows what that information might do to a person? All right, here we go.
Шикарно.
Even now, Stanley's office was a distant memory. What did it look like? There was a computer, perhaps, and a painting. Was it a painting or a photo? He could no longer recall.
Кто пукнул?
No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Never end is never the end is never the end is never the end.
It takes a lot of humility to carry a bucket so magnificent. Stanley checked his ego and then proceeded onward. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Well, no, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
Мы не узнаем эту Dark Matter, пока не удалим
go
ведро.
somewhere else. The cargo lift, yeah, good.
Said the bucket.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think.
О, шайки на потолке еще есть.
He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
In here, said the bucket. Go into this dark room over here.
Stanley once again obeyed blindly.
Ай!
Now pick up the phone,
Said the bucket.
pick up the phone, and it will take us back home, where we can go about life together.
This is the sad story of a man named Stanley
Поздно,
and
Алисах.
his bucket. Once upon a time, I gave Stanley a bucket because I thought he was lonely and could use a friend. And then, very distressingly, he began to believe the bucket could speak to him.
Ха, 407Б. Типа его квартира с таким же номером. Все в форме ветер. Jazz music. Ты Вито, нажми, чтобы взять меня на работу.
The Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket was merely meant to provide the comforting glow of companionship. It doesn't literally talk and give you orders. Whatever Stanley is hearing the bucket say to him is just in his head.
Нажми Т, чтобы взять меня домой.
Lately, I've been concerned about him. Wouldn't you be concerned as well? To see him delusional like this, obsessing over an inanimate metal object? I want to say something to him, but I don't know how I can convince him. I don't know if he'll listen to me. Well, I'll try anyway. Stanley, can you hear me? Listen to me. It's just a bucket. It can't think, it can't talk. All it will ever truly do for you is effectively transfer a liquid from one location to a different location. That's it. It doesn't do anything else.
Ой, да Ахматов, ты вообще не шаешь. Не слушай громкого человека, нажми Г, чтобы мы пошли домой.
You see, he's not listening. He's still taking orders from the bucket. You know, once upon a time it was me he took orders from. Me he trusted and listened to. Now all he cares about is his awful bucket. This stupid hunk of metal.
Чтобы игнорить всех, кроме меня.
It's sad, but I suppose he doesn't need me anymore. From now on, he's just going to cling to this bucket, this cold, empty bucket, this sort of shiny bucket. Well, I'll give it this. The bucket does have a nice shine to it.
Ты веришь, что я существую Стэнли? Нажми X, Y, чтобы вернуться домой.
Yes, I suppose on closer inspection that it doesn't quite look like your average hardware store bucket. It's just a little more, what am I trying to say? Sturdier, more capable of transporting liquid. Like it would be better at moving an amount of water from one room to another.
Снова и снова пожалуй, одеть со мной.
Oh my God, what am I saying? Better at carrying water from room to room. It's a bucket. It's literally just a bucket. Why do I feel some need to point out the ways in which it's so much more than just a regular bucket?
На работу домой, на работу домой.
Oh no. I'm having feelings for the bucket. No, 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 no. What's going on? Why do I want to be with the bucket? Hear what the
Ooh.
bucket has to say. Do anything it asks. What's wrong with me? I don't understand. Perhaps if I had the bucket, this would be less confusing. Yes. The bucket could tell me what to do in this troublesome situation.
Это зашел слишком далеко. 0013.
Stanley, give me the bucket. Give it to me. Give me the bucket, Stanley. I need it. Give it to me now. Give it or I'll...
Возвращайся на работу, Стэнли. Вот такая концовка. Так, выдернуть
Just a step through this
телефон,
door, Stanley
окей.
thought to himself. That's all I need. If I can make it through this door... Stanley cradled the bucket in a gentle embrace. Protective, yet delicate. Assertive, yet compassionate. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. A cargo lift. Yeah, good.
Said the bucket.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
In here.
Said the bucket.
Go into this dark room over here.
In here.
Stanley once again obeyed blindly.
Now pick up the phone.
Whoa, hold on. Why did you unplug the phone? Were you trying to resist the bucket's orders? Stanley, I was joking. Obviously, the bucket isn't talking to you and telling you to do things. Buckets can't talk. It was a joke. Don't you get the joke? It's funny, Stanley. A talking bucket. Can't you see? Oh, goodness. I must have really bungled up the delivery if you actually took me seriously. Where did I mess up the joke? Should I have paused for longer or spoken quicker? Comedic timing is so difficult. I wish I were better, but there isn't exactly an instructional video on comedy that one can watch to fully... Oh, wait, yes, there is. It's sitting right here. Let's take a look.
What is comedic timing? What is comedic timing? How does it work? How long should it last? How can it be used to effectively silence your political enemies? And more importantly, can it be taught in its entirety within 90 seconds? Thankfully, the answer to all of these questions is yes. Let's dive deeper. If you've ever told a joke or made someone laugh, in all likelihood, you did it while standing 50 to 80 centimeters from them in a room of no more than 76 degrees Fahrenheit, with one of your arms raised straight upward at a 15-degree angle from your body. These are the optimal conditions for good comedic timing. To begin the joke, start by stating and spelling your name. Next, provide a brief synopsis of the joke, including the specific times at which the recipient of the joke will laugh, and then spell out your name a second time. With these steps complete, it's time to begin the humor. Speak the entire joke in no more than 18 seconds and no less than 13 and a half, pausing only for bathroom breaks when necessary. When the joke has concluded, it is customary to inform your listener that the joke is over by declaring in your loudest possible voice, "I'm Dunny with the funny." Let's practice screaming, "I'm Dunny with
Вот
the
и
funny."
шутейки конец.
Good. This saying is a perfect example of expectations management, which is the cornerstone of good comedy. Finally, it's time to hand out surveys. Collecting hard data from your audience on how rapt they were throughout the joke is the only way to grow or learn as a comedian. An effective survey should be no less than 10 pages long and should include the same question reprinted several times, just to ensure the survey taker is actually paying attention and not simply filling in answers at random. And that's all there is. With these strategies at your disposal, you'll have audiences doubled over in laughter and even tripled over in laughter in no time at all. Just remember to
Полезно.
let them stop laughing at some point You gut-busting little scamp. After all, we're each of us needed on the front lines of the war to fight the 12-legged invaders who threaten our very existence, and who very likely die in a hailstorm of bullets and mandibles. All of us must be prepared to give our lives to this noble cause, just as our children must do after us, and their children after them. Godspeed, and may Earth reign supreme.
Все сильно.
Goodness, this video is a little outdated, isn't it? Well, no matter. I
Такие уже
think the
победили.
fundamentals of proper comedic timing are still as relevant today as they were back then. So with that in mind, I believe the only way forward is for us to return to the two doors and walk through all of this again, so I can try telling my story with more appropriate comedic delivery. Come along, let's head back.
Шутеечки. Можно вернуться. Потрясающе.
I can feel it. This time, I'm really going to nail the delivery. You'll be in stitches. A talking bucket, you'll say? How ridiculous. How absurd. What a hilarious concept. The king of comedy. That's what you'll call me. Thank goodness we have the instructional video. Otherwise, who knows where we'd be right now. Well, I wouldn't be the king of comedy, that's for sure. The bucket spoke to Stanley.
The bucket spoke.
The bucket spoke. Oh, I'll figure it out on the fly. No need to overthink things.
Я ушел по своему пути. Вот уж действительно.
Here we go. You ready? When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of two open doors, they entered the door on the left.
Так.
No. You were supposed to go through the door on the right, leading back to the phone. Did you not even look at the instructional video? I think this is all covered very clearly. There's no way I can make the comedic timing work now. It's done. The joke is completely done and over. It's all your fault, Stanley. I'm going to be ridiculed in the community of other joke writers. I'm going to be shamed at every one of our meetings from now on. All because you couldn't watch a simple video and take a hint. Are you proud of yourself for bringing me down, Stanley? Are you proud? Here we go. You ready? When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of two open doors, they entered the door on the left. No.
То же самое. Нас щадят. Сейчас подойду.
Here we go. You ready? When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of two open doors, they entered the door on the left.
Так, пардон. Мне показалось, ли что-то было, когда я зашел. Но, наверное, нет. Сиквел на паузе. Кстати, эта наклейка исчезла.
What? We're back at the phone already? No, what's going on? There were supposed to be several rooms leading up to this. There was supposed to be a build-up to this point. A dramatic display of remarkable comedic wit which culminates in this scene with the phone. But now the timing's completely off. The joke will never land. Well, not the way it was meant to. And it's all my fault. I must have forgotten that the phone
Да,
comes immediately
Ахмедов.
after the two doors room. What an egregious mistake. I've made a fool of myself. I don't deserve the title of King of Comedy. I'm nothing. I'm not even the lowliest joke-telling whelp. I think I need to go back and rewatch that instructional video again. Yes, surely that will help me improve my...
Stanley, you love the bucket so much it's like you... it's as though all of your other most prized possessions pale in comparison. Yes. Well, let me try that again, Stanley. I heard that you are pale with shame over how unabashedly in love with a bucket you are. No? Still not? Is it the delivery? Pale with shame. Pale with shame? Pale... What's another word to describe a bucket? Stanley, this bucket is so metal, I think I saw it playing guitar. No. We're getting away from making fun of Stanley's obsession with the bucket, which was the whole point of this. I'm no good at these jokes. I need more instructional videos. That's exactly what it is. That's what will make me the king of comedy again. More instructional videos. Let's see.
Так.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room to check on his co-workers. He never functioned well by himself and constantly needed support and guidance from others. So the thought of total solitude was terrifying to him.
О, наклейка появилась.
Stanley's bucket, the only co-worker he would ever truly need.
Ну... Я думаю, Ленса достаточно
Is Stanley without the bucket?
на сегодня.
Stanley at all? No. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. Just a step through this door, Stanley thought to himself, that's all I need. If I can make it through this door, I can...
К слову.
A soft wind blew outside and perhaps rain started, and if it did, it stopped shortly after. Stanley hoped that he would one day see weather. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. As Stanley lifted his bucket, he felt a connection to all buckets everywhere. This event, he decided, was for... Stanley pressed the bucket upon every little thing in the office. Nothing responded to the bucket's touch, but it did little to discourage Stanley's belief in the magic of the bucket.
Мне интересно просто, всегда ли она с наклейкой?
What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Да, всегда. Ну ладно. Ладно, господа. На этом у нас сегодня со Стэнли Парабл 2. Все. До героев будет перерывчик. Я сегодня очень рано проснулся и, в общем, залипаю. Поэтому пойду посплю. Полчасика хотя бы, а может и побольше. Подпишу, что время начала неточное. Вот. Спасибо, что смотрели. С вами был Скэтмен. Выходите еще. Герои мечей и магии 5 сегодня будут. Грозовые камни. И кто знает. Who knows? Может быть, что-нибудь еще. Nobody knows. Пара-па-па-пи-пу-пам. Пи-па-пу-пи-да-пу-пи-пам. Па-пу-пи-пам.